Hey everybody. So this week we're going to talk about double stroke rolls and how to play them and how to interpret them. So a double stroke roll is basically when you're going to take one stroke of the stick and get two sounds, right? Two rebounds off of one motion. That in its simplest terms is what a double stroke roll is. So your hand, wrist, comes down once, the stick hits twice, okay? It's really simple how to do that. You just take what we already talked about in the basic strokes, and you take the kind of like the full stroke where you're letting the stick come down on the drum and bounce on its own accord without stopping it or stopping the momentum in any way. And then you're letting it come down again immediately. And then on that second note, just like on an upstroke, you're going to pull the stick up using your wrist slightly. So let the stick come down, let it hit again, and then pull it up. So when we're talking about basic strokes, in terms of full strokes and upstrokes, we talked about the velocity of the upstroke versus the velocity of the downward motion. Same thing is true here. If I really slow it down, a double stroke, you can see how the velocity of the second beat going up is faster than the velocity of the first note going down. And that's super important, okay? Because the key to a good sounding double stroke roll is even strokes, right? You want every stroke of the drum to sound the same, so it's even. And the only way to do that is to make sure that because you have gravity pulling the stick down, right? And the first note is almost always going to be the strongest. So you have to de-emphasize that first note a little bit and just don't push it down, don't give it any force, don't give it any extra energy that it doesn't need, right? It just needs gravity, let it come down, boom. Keep all the fingers on the stick, just like always. Let the stick come down, let it bounce on its own, and then upstroke. So it's like you do the beginning of a full stroke, the difference being on a full stroke, you're gonna lift the stick up at the end, okay? Boom. A full or legato stroke. The difference here is you don't lift it at the end. You just let it bounce, and then you let it hit again, and then on the second one, you pull it up. Like that. So you want to use the bounce of the stick. You want the stick, gravity, and the drum to be doing most of the work. And that's how you can play fast, is if you're staying relaxed and letting physics do the work for you. And that's what we want. And that's how you get speed, right? So, as you can see, even if I speed up a little bit, that I'm really popping the stick up after the second beat. Okay, again, going back to when we talked about upstrokes, we talked about the toaster effect, or the Pop-Tart effect, where the stick jumps up, right? It jumps up. That's what we want on the second beat of the double. And pow, jumps up. Boom, boom, boom. So it's a combination of the rebound, the natural rebound of the drum, and your wrist helping it, okay? Now, if you listen to when I'm playing this, when I'm doing it really slow like this, you can actually hear a slight emphasis on the second note, okay? That's not accidental. That's on purpose. I'm doing that. I'm putting the emphasis on the second beat. And the reason for doing that is so that when it speeds up a little bit, those will even out. So if the tendency is to have the first note be strong and the second note be weak, That's what we're going against. So to fight that tendency, we kind of exaggerate the other way. So we put the emphasis on the second beat. That way, when it gets faster, it starts to even out. Okay, so you want to make sure to try to play so that you can't hear the pulse or the check pattern that we talked about in the multiple bounce video. You can't hear the check pattern when you play the drums, when you play a roll, okay? Because what a bad roll sounds like is this. See, I'm putting pressure on my fulcrums and forcing the stick down into the head to try to squeeze out that double beat. That's not good. When you do that, that's when you get that sound. So you can really tell that the first note is way louder than the second note. Okay, and that's going to translate to that, which you do not want. You want that, which is even, true pulse, like a roll. So, and the way to do that is to pull out second note. Okay? Okay? Now, I'm not going to get into too much like wrist or arm. Some of both is okay. I mean, when you're going really slow, you're pretty much only going to need to use your wrist. Okay? My arm isn't really moving that much. But when I start to go a little faster, it's okay. There's a little bit of arm motion going on. You just want a natural flow to the stick. Again, so what you don't want is to make the increase in speed put more pressure in your hand, in your fulcrum. Because anytime you increase the pressure here, it's going to change the sound of what comes out here. Okay, I want to say that again because it's super important. Anytime you change the pressure here, it's going to change the sound of what comes out here. Okay, so if you don't want to change the sound, if you want it to be nice and even, don't change the pressure in your hands. The only thing that you do to play a faster roll is do a little bit faster check pattern. So if your check pattern is here, okay, and then you put doubles on it, I'm going to use the same amount of pressure in my hands, check pattern here, doubles, okay? So that way, I don't get a choppy, pulsated sound of a roll. So that's basically the idea. And now as you can see as I go faster, there is a little bit of arm motion that comes in naturally, and that's okay. You shouldn't have a whole lot of arm motion when you're playing really slow. That's more movement than you need, you know, and you shouldn't be all wrist if you're playing really fast, because just physics-wise, it puts too much responsibility and pressure on your fulcrum to really get that diddle out, and you just inevitably makes the first note louder than the second note. Bad for rolls. Second note loud, good for rolls, right? That's what you want. So whether you're playing a nice slow eighth note check roll, or you're playing a fast triplet roll, there's not that much change going on in your hands in terms of your grip and your touch, okay? So as you can see, I'm even like taking this finger off just a little bit, like right now when I play really fast. That's just to kind of remind myself mentally, don't squeeze here. Because when you go fast, there's a lot of energy going through the stick, right? The stick's moving really fast. If you're playing like, right, there's a lot of motion there, a lot of energy going back and forth. And if you choke that energy off, it's gonna keep the stick from bouncing, which is the opposite of what you want, right? You want the stick to bounce. You want that rebound to create the roll. So you need to let it happen. Let that stick bounce, okay? And I don't mean let it happen like just don't have any technique. Yeah, see, that's what happens, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, let it happen as in always have good technique. And if you forget what it is, go back to the first video. Always have good technique. Keep all of your fingers on the stick, but keep your fingers relaxed. That's the key. If you keep the fingers on the stick, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna have control of the stick. You're not gonna lose control. And if you keep your fingers relaxed, the sticks will be able to do what you want them to do, especially at the fast speeds, okay? So I've been playing match grip, right? Everything that I'm saying works for both hands. If you're playing traditional grip, again, it's the same concept. You're still lifting out on the second beat. You're just rotating your wrist this way instead of this way, right? That's really the only difference. And if you're familiar with the traditional grip and you feel comfortable with it and you understand how each finger works and you can get a good rebound, shouldn't be any problem playing a roll with traditional grip also. So here's what it sounds like going from slow to fast to slow again. So you can really hear the emphasis on the second beat, especially at the slower tempos, and how that converts and translates into better sound quality at the fast tempos. Okay? So here we go. Also, if you notice, the height changed. When I was playing really slow, when I was playing really slow, I was able to have much more height because I can control the sticks better, right? But the faster that I went, when I started getting here, you'll notice that the height of the sticks drops a little bit. Back down to here, and then when it gets really fast, it's there. That's just physics. That's just, you don't want to make the stick do something that it can't do. If you try to play a roll really fast, but you try to play it up here, like that takes an extra level of like finger strength. Some people can do that, and that's awesome. If you want to work yourself up to that, that's awesome too. But I want to teach you something that you can do right away and then practice a certain way for a long time to get really, really good at your rolls, okay? And that's what we're going for. So, hope that makes sense. Hope you understand double stroke rolls a little bit better, and now you know how to practice them. So, best of luck. Happy practicing.